it's time for Health Tips Tuesday. A new study this month found that postmenopausal women who are socially isolated have an increased risk for heart disease. And what proactive steps can women take to protect their health? Joining us to tell us more about this study is Dr. Sabine Chaudhry, cardiologist at Bay State's Heart and Vascular Program. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so our first question is a new study in the February 2nd issue of the Journal of the American Medical Association found that postmenopausal women who are socially isolated are lonely and have a 13 to 27% higher risk of cardiovascular disease. How does this social isolation contribute to an increased risk of cardiovascular disease?
That's a great question. So we know from not only this study, but a number of other studies that have looked at depression, social isolation, and loneliness that patients can have a higher risk of heart disease when those other issues exist. We don't completely understand what the molecular mechanisms are, so what's happening at the cellular level. But we know when people are socially isolated and that when they're lonely, they may have higher overall stress levels. They may have other types of medical issues that limit their mobility. So kidney problems, advanced diabetes, they may not be as physically active, and all of these overall impact their health. In the end, the concern is that they're living in this revved up high stress state, and we tend to release a lot of cortisol, which then can cause higher blood sugar levels. It can contribute to things like high blood pressure and other types of changes that increase your risk of plaque buildup in the arteries. And at the end, we have an imbalance of our sympathetic and parasympathetic systems that are so important in regulating stress. A little bit of stress is important when we're dealing with that fight or flight mechanism, and we want to be able to challenge our bodies to address that type of event. But when you're chronically under stress, that then causes all sorts of other medical problems. And the thought is that that is a big part of what's happening when people are chronically isolated and feeling lonely.
So just to piggyback off of that, what could postmenopausal women who are socially isolated do to prevent such a risk when people are being isolated because of the pandemic?
Absolutely. I think this really helps stress how important it is to have community involvement. So, at the basic level, you want to take care of your own health, make sure you're staying physically active, managing other medical problems that you may have. At the larger community level, it's a great call to action to say, join your community center, look at what your local library may offer or your local senior center. If you are religious, faith-based groups often have many programs for seniors. And then, of course, making sure we're staying in touch with our family, especially in the last 2 years where that's been so challenging. I think this just underscores how important it is to have those personal connections. One of the tips that I saw at the National Institutes on Aging was scheduling a daily time with family and friends that you use to connect either by phone or video chat or any of the other great social media apps that may be available. And I think that's a great tip to just keep in mind. The National Institutes on Aging has some great advice as well. If you are feeling lonely or socially isolated, places that you can look up more information. And of course, talking to your doctor about it is another really important thing you can do.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Chaudhry. That is all the time that we have, but we do appreciate you coming on and helping us out. So thank you so much. Thanks for joining us today.
Absolutely. Thank you.